for file sharing because Novell and many other fine companies, if you will, made the Int21 architecture an architecture that allows people to hook in alternate requesters to talk to different file and print services. So we are formalizing this architecture to bring to Windows what I might call network-independent networking, the same way Windows brought to graphics and output device-independent graphics. And this is a major thrust for us for the Windows offering. Yesterday in New York, we did a set of customer presentations on what we call Windows and SNA, where we demonstrated some of these solutions working in the SNA environment, with Windows talking to applications that already exist on IBM hosts, to DB2, to profs, etc. How are we doing on the NT demo? Ha! Why don't you do the NT demo, and then maybe I'll come back and show you a little bit of Windows 3.1 and a little bit of this Windows Open Services architecture actually in use here on a NetWare network that we have set up on stage. But first I'll turn things over to Brad, and we'll show you a little bit of Windows NT.
Okay, what we have here is Windows NT, our high-end version of the Windows operating system. The first thing to notice is essentially from an end-user perspective, it looks the same as Windows 3.0 and 3.1. We've got the same Windows 3.1 file manager. I can go ahead and bring up the file manager. And besides being the same from an interface standpoint, actually all the applets that are in Windows NT are the same source code both on Windows 3.1 as in Windows NT. And overall, the programming model is very similar between the two environments. Aside from being very similar in interface, there's a number of ways that they're different. One of those is in the way we handle the user interface. We've done something called desynchronize the user input queue. Essentially what this means is that if an application isn't responding and you have the hourglass, essentially you can go on and do other things. So within the file manager, I'll search for all files off of the root. I'll get the hourglass within the file manager. But now I can go and switch to the program manager. I get my pointer back, click on the program manager, and go ahead and run a game of solitaire while I'm waiting for my search to finish. So
key new feature of Windows NT.
So that'll allow users to be much more productive. In addition, okay, some other ways it's also not your same old Windows 3.1 is it's also a fully preemptive multitasking operating system. Here we have several applications, a couple Bezier curve applications. Bezier curves are some new graphics functionality we've added into Windows NT. We also have a performance meter here that shows some of the information you can get out of the operating system. Probably the most interesting numbers to take a look at in the lower right-hand corner of the performance meter are the number of processes and the number of threads. As you can see, both in the applications that are running and internally in the operating system, we have a large number of processes going. We have 24 processes and 82 threads, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the operating system. In addition to these 32-bit applications, we'll also have the ability to run existing 16-bit Windows applications as well as DOS applications. Again, giving the user the ability to easily migrate to Windows NT and still have their familiar applications there. This is a 16-bit version of Corel Draw that we went out to Egghead Software and purchased. And we've actually had this printing out to an HP PaintJet printer from a 32-bit Windows NT device driver. We also have a number of vendors who are working on moving their code to full 32-bit applications. One of those is our own Excel group. This is a 32-bit version of Microsoft Excel. I'll go ahead and bring up spreadsheet. We can move that over. Go ahead and draw a chart.
This is Excel version 3. Well, it's actually 3+. It's not exactly version 4 yet. They took a snapshot when they started the port to NT.
So again, an important thing from the end user's perspective is that Corel Draw is a 16-bit Windows application, Excel is a 32-bit Windows application, and from the end user's perspective, initially they cannot tell the difference. Obviously, the 32-bit application will have access to the additional APIs as well as to the 32-bit flat memory model, but from the user's point of view, it's a very comfortable environment.
It's a key point. What it means is Windows applications run as is on Windows NT, or they can be enhanced to take advantage of Windows NT. The user won't see a difference.
And in addition, from the developer standpoint, moving over is very easy. We've had over 300 software developers who are working with early pre-release copies of the Windows NT SDK. And you'll actually see a lot of fruits of their labor at Windows World next month, when we'll have a big Windows NT ISV booth showing a large number of 32-bit applications that some of them have been ported over in a matter of 2 to 3 days. So,
great. Thanks, Brad. Also, I'll just point out, we will be having a developers conference in July for those of you who want to learn more about Windows NT. That'll be in San Francisco in July. And maybe with a little bit of luck, we'll have Windows NT on NetWare at least demoable by that time. Why don't we turn, and I think maybe I'll take an opportunity to show you a little bit of Windows 3.1 and this Windows Open Services architecture. Are we back now? Okay. Let me just make sure we're up since we can't. Yeah. Okay. I'm sitting here at the DOS prompt, and the reason I started the DOS prompt instead of starting at Windows is I wanted to show you one of the nice things about Windows 3.1. Windows 3.1 supports persistent network connections. So if you set up a set of connections in the Windows File Manager, we'll maintain those connections across Windows sessions. So I'll start up Windows. Windows will reinitiate all of the network connections we had set up earlier. As it brings up the Windows File Manager. We have on our configuration up here, Windows running on a compact 386/25, Windows 3.1 that is. We have a NetWare server on which we're running file service as well as the Oracle NLM. We have an OS/2 system on this NetWare network running Microsoft SQL Server. So it's a 3-machine network, 1 client, 2 servers, 2 different database servers, and a file server. What you can see here is the new Windows 3.1 File Manager. You can see, or maybe you can't see, depending upon how well can people see the screens? Is there any way to get the lights a little lower? Well, does that help? A little lower even might be helpful. Okay, what you can see up at the top is the number of drives. We show you the A drive and the C drive. The D drive, if you could actually see the icon, looks like a little CD drive, which it is. We have a CD drive attached here on Windows 3.1 because we've been using it for some multimedia. And then you can see the F drive, the Y drive, and my eyes don't look so good, but either an X or a Z drive that represent, we must have 3 different servers out there, 2 NetWare servers, file servers, the SQL server running on OS/2. And I can click, see what's on those things. If I want to, I can have multiple views. So I can, if you will, have a multiple directory view listing. If I want to copy something, I better be careful not to copy the wrong thing, or the rest of the demo won't work. But if I want to, say, copy this file gateways over to from the Y drive to the F drive, I just pick it up, I move it, and I can drop it, and it'll go wherever I drop it. And it's been copied for me, so I can drag and drop in the File Manager. For those of you who've used Windows before, I think it'll be obvious to you that the File Manager is quite a bit faster as I go out and tab around and look at what's out on the network, on network drives. So let me switch away here for half a second. I have a little document that I've been working on entitled, What is TrueType? TrueType is a feature of Windows 3.1 that allows fonts to scale to an arbitrary size, either on the screen or on the printer. One of the great usability issues people pointed out with Windows 3.0 is it's just too hard to get what you see on the printer, or what you see on the screen out to the printer. You can see here I have a pretty ugly and pretty small looking font that we're using as a headline to the document. So maybe I'll go in and change that. So I'll select the line. I'll go into character. This is just the right little word processor that comes with Windows. Fonts. And you can see here I get a little dialog box. I'm going to change this to a TrueType font, which is designated by a little icon, TT. So I'll pick TrueType Arial, and let's make it, oh, I don't know. I'll make it a 40-point font. That's what it'll look like. I say OK. I click. And you can see I have very good looking text on the screen. I can get that same good looking text on any printer, on a PostScript printer, a PCL printer, or any dot matrix printer will exactly image that text. As I scroll down through this document, oops, where did I click? Yeah, there we go. It says, here's what one user said about TrueType. But there's nothing in there. I didn't finish the document. So let me go bring up the file manager. And there's the file manager. And I'll switch. I have a little voice recording that I made earlier. And I'll go get that voice recording. I called it TT for TrueType. And so I'll go pick it up in the file manager. Yeah, I want to make sure I have it in the right insertion point. I'll go pick up the TrueType. Does that say tt.wave? I'll just pick it up and I'll drop it into the document. And it's going to embed that file, and now I've embedded a voice recording in this document. So I'll zoom it to full screen. We can see the document's been done. That could be mailed through the network. When the recipient gets it, they can click, or whoever wants to can click, and let's hear what the voice annotation is.
I really love TrueType. My documents look great, and the speed of display is awesome.
A very unbiased user's comment on TrueType. As I did that, I not only showed you some of the sound and multimedia characteristics of Windows, but I showed you also what we call object linking and embedding. The actual sound object or sound recorder knows nothing about the Windows Write word processor. They both have just been enabled for object linking and embedding. I could just as easily have gone and picked up an Excel chart, a Lotus Ami document, and embedded it right here inside this Write document. That gives you a little bit of a feel for some of the kinds of things. TrueType, the object linking embedding, the improvements in the file manager. Let me put this away for a second, and let's go take a look at the program manager, which has been changed some in Windows 3.1. This is the 3.1 program manager. The first thing I want to point out to you is we've added what we call a startup group. And all the user has to do is drag programs that they want to come up as soon as Windows is loaded into the startup group, and these things are automatically loaded. As you can see, I have the file manager, the sound recorder, the TrueType document that I was working on, plus a query tool that I'll show you in a minute, that were all automatically loaded when Windows was booted up. Next thing I want to show you is a little application. Well, before I do that, let's take a look at a little application we've written called Bad App. And Bad App's a bad application. It's an application that would have caused unrecoverable application errors in Windows 3.1. As a matter of fact, we were so clever, we've set it up so it could actually generate multiple different unrecoverable application errors. And I want to show you this bad application. First thing, though, I want to show you just one other small thing in the program manager. We'll see here as we click on Bad App and we look at the properties in the program manager that we've added a new property called Working Directory. This lets you set the working directory on any application very simply in the network. Okay, so let's go launch Bad App. Oh, there it is. Okay, and Bad App will let me do one of two things. I can either GP fault or just hang the system. Hang the system, you know, I can just start taking up time, and what Windows 3.1 actually does is it does parameter checking. So you can't pass Windows a bad value, and then we let the user control these errant applications. So let's go ahead and hang Windows, and you can see I have an hourglass. And I have an hourglass, and because we wrote this application, I can assure you, if we waited here a half an hour, I would still have an hourglass. So I'll do what every good Windows 3.1 user does, which is Control-Alt-Delete.